Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. It is almost rodeo time here at OSU. We'll have more on the big event these students are practicing for a little later in the show. But first we want to talk about winter nutrition for livestock. Here's SUNUP's Austin Moore.
Fall has just begun, but it's time to start thinking about winter supplementation for cattle. Joining us now is Dave Lawman, our beef cattle specialist. Dave, let's talk about when we supplement this winter. What are we really looking to get to those cattle?
Well, for range cows out on native grass in particular, the primary thing we generally consider is protein supplementation, because the native grass forage or warm season forage that's been stockpiled for grazing is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 5% crude protein, and a cow's requirement, depending on the stage of production, is somewhere between 8 and 12. So we need more protein.
Absolutely. And of course, not normally we use cubes, but there are some other options out there on the market.
Yeah, cubes are very convenient. You know, they're handy for range cattle because cows can pick, say, a 3/4 inch cube up off the ground without wasting very much feed, if any. And they flow easy and so on. They're easy to handle. Those are going to be based primarily on a cottonseed meal, sometimes a little bit of soybean meal and other protein sources, but a lot of them rely heavily in this part of the world on cottonseed meal as their primary protein source. You asked about other sources. Right. So, you know, there's a lot of really good plant protein sources on the market. Distillers dried grains is one that we've featured on SUNUP with the research we've done here at OSU in years past, and it continues to be a very popular product. It doesn't cube very well. So you know, it brings other challenges to the table in terms of handling a meal form or textured form feed, if you will, instead of a cube. But it's a very good source. But there are other commodities as well that producers use. Corn gluten feed is another good example. Sunflower meal, canola meal are all examples of commodities that have been used recently.
Give us an example, if you would, of one of those alternatives versus cubes, say, in terms of the economics of it.
Well, right now, at this moment, no telling how long it will last, but there's a dramatic difference in commodity protein, plant protein source commodity prices, with cottonseed meal and soybeans meal being extremely expensive right at the moment. And distillers grains is one example of a commodity that's very inexpensive right now. We can get distillers grains bulk delivered into the central part of the state now for somewhere around $170, $180 a ton. You might be able to do a little bit better than that. But let's say an average price per pound of protein, if you're able to handle a bulk commodity like that, is going to be cost per pound of protein around 28 cents. So pretty competitive, very inexpensive. You know, a cottonseed meal based product is probably right now, based on the current market price, is going to be somewhere more in the 55 to almost 70 cents per pound of protein. Dramatic difference in price right at the moment.
So then if you can handle the amount, if you can handle the different way of getting it to your cattle, certainly something you're going to think about, that price difference.
I would encourage folks to consider that this year, and then just, you know, they're the only ones that can decide right. How much the extra hassle factor, if you will, or if they have the equipment, the storage facilities and so on to deal with it. But they have to decide what that's worth to them.
So I guess the key thing is regardless of what options you're doing, you need to sit down with pen and paper and really take a look at it before you make a purchase.
That's right, and this year, and particularly right now, is the time to do some homework. If we don't leave with any other message, that's one I think they ought to think about. Call your feed company, your feed dealer, you know, call your commodity broker, read the fact sheet relative to the challenges you might consider for one feed source compared to the other, and go from there. You might save an opportunity at least to make a serious evaluation, save yourself some money possibly.
All right. If you'd like to read more about this topic, you can find a fact sheet on our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. With September behind us, we turn our attention to how the lack of rain is impacting soil moisture. A map showing the change in soil moisture at the 10-inch depth during the last week in September had values mostly on the negative side. Negative values mean soils were losing moisture. Woodward and Waurika dropped 0.6 on a scale that is wettest at a value of 1. Checking on a map of current plant available water from the surface down to 16 inches through September 30th, the large dark brown areas had plant available water percentages in the teens and in the driest soil areas below 10%. Not much changes as we look deeper at a plant available water map from the surface down to 32 inches. There are only a few green areas with good soil moisture. Here's Gary with a look at our sparse rainfall.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, everybody. Well, we just came off a really dry September, and that followed a dry August. So, of course, drought is on the move once again across Oklahoma. Let's take a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map. The dry weather the past 2 months has taken its toll. We saw increases in drought intensity across the Panhandle, northern Oklahoma, southwestern Oklahoma, and over into central Oklahoma. Basically everywhere but eastern Oklahoma. We will need more rain pretty quickly to overcome more drought intensification, unfortunately. Let's take a look at the September rainfall maps from the Mesonet to see what got us into this situation, at least recently. Now, September wasn't much help for most, but folks in the northeast and southeast that got more than 8 inches were actually the lucky ones, but those areas were few and far between. Much of the rest of the state saw from less than 3 inches down to less than an inch. Buffalo, the best little town in the state and home of yours truly, had less than a half inch with just 0.3 inches. That's pretty dry. Now if we look at that same map except percent of normal rainfall, compared to normal, a bunch of places had less than 40% of rain during September to even less than 20% of normal. And remember, this was after a really dry August as well, so those two combined really gave us problems. But also remember that October 1st is the 4-year anniversary of the drought. It started way back in October 2010. So here's the departure from normal rainfall map for the beginning of October 2010 all the way through the end of September 2014. As you can see, way too much red and orange on this map. We have some areas less than 22 inches below normal to other areas more than 44 inches below normal. So that's a really drastic deficit across most of the state over this 4-year drought period. National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center, they don't see much hope for drought relief, at least through the month of October. But October is our secondary rainy season, so maybe we can get some rainfall in here and help end at least part of this drought or get us a good start, get ready for next spring. Now let's take a look at the U.S. monthly drought outlook for October from the National Weather Service's Climate Prediction Center. They see, unfortunately, drought continuing to persist or intensify where it currently exists across the state of Oklahoma. So they don't see any drought relief in store for us during the month of October. That would be unfortunate. It is our secondary rainy season, so we need that rainfall to come in here, get us ready for winter, and set us up nice for next spring. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Wheat prices are up and down this year, and Kim Anderson, a lot of producers are watching that and they're thinking, have we found the bottom?
I think we're relatively close to the bottom on wheat prices. We've talked about $5.50. You know, we talked about $6, and it took a couple months to pound through the $6. It's been pounding on the $5.50. If we break $5.50, we'll go to $4. But there's indications right now that we'll probably hold that $5.50. We've touched it a couple times or got to $5.53, back up in the $5.60s. If we can continue to hold this as we get into the fall, maybe as we get some export demand, I think wheat prices may come up, maybe up to 30 to 40 cents. But the next 2 weeks is going to tell the story. If we break $5.50, we're going on down to $5.
In the past, there's been a tie between wheat and corn. Are we starting to see that bond start to regain?
Yeah, where we saw that original bond, you know, you can go back to 2007, about October, when the funds and the ethanol impacts came in, drove corn prices up. About 9 months later, wheat prices followed them up. When stocks got tight, where wheat was in demand for both food and feed, I mean, they were married. We talked about that. Right now we've got excess corn. The projections for the corn production continues to go up. We ended the year with relatively good corn stocks. There's no reason to feed wheat. So they're moving together to a certain degree, and if you look at the percentage down moves, about 36 for corn, about 32 or 33 for wheat from the top down to the bottom over the last couple of years. They've moved about the same, but not always together. And of course, the real determinant of the corn and wheat price is weather. Good weather, we got good corn production. Bad weather, we got poor hard red winter wheat production.
Okay, and those are starting to come back up. Let's talk about a crop that's really, started to trend downward, the soybeans.
Yeah, soybeans kind of fell off the cliff, but I looked at that chart this past week, and if you'll go back to 2007, we started an uptrend in soybeans that on the long-term trend just ended about 2 months ago. And of course, since that, we dropped from about $13 down to below $10 in the $9 range. They're talking about soybeans maybe going down into $8.50, something like that. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But soybeans broke that long-run uptrend. Of course, you look at wheat and corn we were talking about, they didn't have that long-run uptrend. A lot more volatility in corn and wheat than we had in beans.
Okay, let's go back to wheat. Now, the price being what it is, there should be a little bit more demand for that, correct?
Yeah, I was talking to some people this last week, and it appears to be a big problem in transportation. We know we've got it in corn. Of course, corn has the ethanol, so they can use it in locally and move it with truck. But the wheat has the barge. It also has the rail. Those are very expensive right now. I was told that some grain handlers, corn, wheat, beans, can make more money by selling the rail or the barge than they can selling the commodity, and they're doing that. I personally think if we had good rail availability, good truck availability, good barge availability, in other words, lower rates, that we'd have higher exports and higher wheat and corn prices.
Now talking about things that are trending higher, the value of the dollar's kind of ticked upward also. How's that affecting wheat price?
Well, see, we've seen the dollar go on an index from 79 to 86 relative to other currencies. That's probably makes our wheat at the Texas Gulf or Louisiana Gulf 50 cents a bushel more higher than it was, say, 5 or 6 months ago, or $18 a metric ton higher. 50 cents or $18 a ton on the world market is the difference between a sell and no sell.
Wow, that's a lot of information. Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
We're only a month and a half to 2 months away from the start of the fall breeding season. And that means now's the time to make sure that our bull battery is ready to go. This would be an excellent opportunity to call your local veterinarian and set up an appointment to bring in all the bulls that you're going to use this fall for breeding soundness exams. While you're visiting with the veterinarian, ask about such things as the need for a trichomoniasis test. Some bulls may need it, others may not. Also, we may want to consider deworming and vaccinating for diseases that we want to protect these bulls against before they go into the breeding season. If we have some bulls that do not pass that breeding soundness exam, we need to be getting out and visiting with seed stock producers in our area and get a replacement on our place as soon as possible, because we'd like to get that bull used to his new environment. If he's been on a high energy diet prior to your purchase, this would be a good time to gradually step him down, reduce the amount of grain gradually in his diet, increase the amount of forage, because he's going to be on an all forage diet during the breeding season. And we know that if that's done very, very suddenly, very sharply, right at the start of the breeding season, we can have an adverse effect on bull fertility. Also, if we're going to put more than one bull into the breeding pasture at the same time, there's several considerations. I'd like to put bulls that are going to be in the pasture together, get them in a same pen a month or so prior to the start of the breeding season. They're going to develop the social hierarchy. They're going to decide who's king of the mountain. Let's get the fighting over with before the start of the breeding season. If we've got different ages of bulls involved, let's try to match up young bulls with young bulls and old bulls with older bulls. I think if you'll consider these factors early enough before the start of the breeding season and get ready, then we'll do a better job of having the right bulls in the breeding season, so we get a high percentage of the cows bred early in the breeding season and therefore have a more successful crop, calf crop, next year. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Well, we've made it past the crop insurance deadlines, but there are still more deadlines on the horizon. Jody, what should producers be thinking about this time of year?
Well, earlier this week, FSA released some of the deadlines for some of the upcoming commodity programs. The first is the base reallocation and yield update option. Owners are going to have a one-time opportunity to update base acreage and payment yields on their farms. The yield update and base up can take place now. It started September 29th and will go through February. So, producers don't need to rush out and get that done right away. They still have time to make some decisions. If they know what they're going to do, they can always go on in to their office. But what's going to happen in some cases is that some of the FSA offices in some counties are still really pretty backed up with the livestock disaster program payments. So they may have to just, make an appointment. After that deadline, the PLC and ARC deadline starts coming up, and PLC is the price loss coverage program, ARC is the ag risk coverage program. That deadline for election will start in mid-November and go through March. Now, same thing for that as well. Producers don't need to make that decision early. They will need to make it, I don't suggest waiting until the very last deadline, but they want to wait until we have enough information on prices and yields to kind of see what a 2014 ARC or PLC payment would be. But again, if a producer knows what they want to do, they can always go on in and sign up early if they want to. After the election, producers will actually enroll in ARC or PLC. So there's election and then there's an enrollment. That'll take place later this next summer.
Okay, and there's also a date coming up for cotton producers as well.
Yes, the cotton program with cotton producers with base acreage, they have a new program called Cotton Transition Assistance Payments, and they're similar to direct payments, paid on a little bit less of their base acreage, and it's just in place for 2014 and 2015 if the new STAX crop insurance program isn't available in 2015 in certain counties. Now that deadline is October 7th, so any owners, landowners, producers with cotton base acreage on a farm need to go into their Farm Service Agency office and sign up for those payments by October 7th.
Okay, and you're taking all this information across the state over the next month and a half or so.
Yes, starting in mid-October going through into December, we'll be having meetings with the Farm Service Agency and some of the other USDA agencies in many towns across Oklahoma. And I encourage producers to try to make one of those meetings and ask as many questions as they can and try to get them all answered.
Okay, Jody Campeacci, and if you have more questions, you can go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we want to talk a little bit about GFIs and electrical safety.
Okay, what we've got here is we've got a GFCI put in the circuit, and the way these work is they measure the difference between neutral and what we call hot, and when that difference is measured within a 1/30th of a second, this thing will snap and break the electrical connection between the outlet and the live wire.
Basically, it's just a breaker at the outlet itself that will trip almost instantaneously, and you can use them in a lot of places where there could be an opportunity to maybe ground your hot wire.
Yeah, you should have these in areas where, like near your sinks or any place you've got near water, you should have a GFCI located there. Now, the way you test them is they've got a test button and a reset button, and if you plug in a light, you can hit that test button and it'll cut the light off. On the newer ones, you notice they've got an indicator to indicate that it's needs reset.
So you just simply push the reset button and then you've got power back to it.
Now what we've got set up here is on this outlet, we are playing like this light bulb would be Randy or I, or if you're in the bathtub and your wife throws a toaster in there with you, this would be you and you are connected to ground, and then the hot wire is going from here to ground. And so when we flip the switch on and power that outlet, we can see this light. The current is going right through you.
And so that's an instance where you'd prefer to have the GFI outlet where there's the safety built into it.
So we plug that into this one.
And now when we turn it on, the light doesn't come on, but the breaker trips.
So when you come back to reset it, it won't reset either. You know there's a problem in that circuit.
So that's just a little bit on electrical safety here. We'll see you next week on Shop Stop.
A rodeo is coming back to OSU, and joining us now to talk about it is the rodeo program coordinator and head coach Cody Hollingsworth. And Cody, for those who don't know, just give us an overview of what the rodeo program is like here at OSU.
Sure. The rodeo program was started in 1946. OSU was one of 6 schools that started the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association, so we've had a program on some level ever since then.
And you're actually an alum of that program and get to come back and coach the team?
Yes, yeah, I did most of my undergrad here at OSU and rodeoed while I was here as well.
So how many students are on the team and what kind of events do they compete in?
We have 35 competing members. We have about 45 or 50 students that are involved in the program. They get to compete on all the traditional rodeo events: bareback riding, bull riding, team roping, barrel racing, all the traditional events, plus a few extras on the lady side with goat tying and breakaway roping.
And it's quite a commitment for them. Can you talk about that, kind of how much they compete and what they really get out of being a part of this team?
Sure, it's a major commitment for them. We're out here 4 days a week practicing. We start at 4 in the afternoon and usually wrap up around 8 or 8:30 in the evening. They go to 10 rodeos throughout the college year, competing with all other colleges and universities in Kansas and Oklahoma.
And in terms of the team, it must be quite an experience, you as an alum and then getting to see their relationships and the things that they get out of this?
Yes, and it's the enjoyment of seeing them progress and get better in the arena and being connected to the college life, I guess, still is enjoyable and fun, listening to them go through homework and things like that. Another thing that's really fun about rodeo is it's one of the few college sports where these guys actually get to make a little bit of money when they do win, so they still get paid if they win.
So they get some prizes. Speaking of rodeo and competitions, it's coming home to OSU for the first time in really about 30 years, right?
Yes, yeah, I believe the last time OSU got to host a college rodeo was 1987 or 88.
So tell us about your event that's coming up.
It's coming up next week, October 9th through the 11th. We'll start Thursday evening at 7, have performances each night, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 o'clock. Final round is Saturday night where we crown the champions.
And it's at the Payne County Expo Center, the Cowboy Stampede.
Cowboy Stampede at the new Payne County Fairgrounds Arena.
Okay, sounds like a lot of fun. Cody Hollingsworth, thanks a lot. And for more information on tickets to the Cowboy Stampede, just go to sunup.okstate.edu. Fire season is quickly approaching, and the Oklahoma Mesonet has a program that will help burn associations and fire departments get ready. The OKFire website includes every weather-related tool needed to assess fire danger and select conditions for prescribed burns. If you want to learn how to use this tool, the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service is offering 5 free workshops throughout the state from mid-October to mid-December.
The workshop will feature 6 hours of training from 9:30 to 4:30. There'll be an hour break for lunch, and there'll be a series of presentations by me on different topics related to fire weather, fire danger, smoke dispersion, and then after each segment will be a lab exercise where the attendees will go to their computers, or if we're in a computer lab, to the computer at hand, and then familiarize themselves with the website, answering the questions and so forth. So the goal is by the end of the day to sort of master the basics of how to use the OKFire website in whatever activity you're typically involved with.
While the workshops are free, space is limited, so be sure to register early. For more information, visit our website, sunup.okstate.edu, and click on Show Links. That'll do it for us this week on SUNUP. Remember, you can find us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu and also on social media. From the Rodeo Practice Arena here at Oklahoma State University, I'm Lyndall Stout. We'll see you next time at SUNUP.